Bullies throw superglue on the new girl's hair, not imagining she was a deadly fighter. The late August heat shimmered off the asphalt as Maya Chen stood before Westlake High School, her stomach churning with a familiar cocktail of anxiety and determination. At 15, she possessed the kind of quiet grace that made her easy to overlook. Slender build, dark hair that fell just past her shoulders, and brown eyes that seemed to take in everything while revealing nothing. Her parents had assured her this move would be different, that Westlake would be a fresh start after the corporate restructuring that had uprooted their lives from San Francisco. What the students of Westlake didn't know, what Maya deliberately kept hidden beneath oversized hoodies and a carefully cultivated invisibility, was that she had spent the last 7 years of her life training in one of the most demanding martial arts gyms in California. Her journey had begun when she was 8, not because of bullying or self-defense concerns, but because her father, a second-generation immigrant who had faced his own share of childhood torment, believed in preparation. "The world won't always be kind to you, Maya," he had told her on that first day at the dojo, "but you can choose to be ready for whatever it brings." By the time she was 13, Maya had earned her purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, a feat that typically took adults 5 to 6 years to achieve. Her striking coach, a former Muay Thai champion named Kamen, often remarked that she possessed an almost supernatural ability to read opponents' movements, to see the telegraph in a shoulder twitch or the commitment in a weight shift. She had competed in over 30 tournaments, winning more than she lost, including a prestigious junior championship that had caught the attention of several prominent coaches. But that was her old life, a life she had deliberately left unmentioned when enrolling at Westlake. The decision to hide her training wasn't born of modesty, but of experience. At her previous school, word had gotten out about her abilities after she had inadvertently demonstrated a throw during a self-defense demonstration in PE class. The reaction had been swift and isolating. Boys either treated her like some kind of exotic challenge to be conquered or avoided her entirely, intimidated by a girl who could put them on their backs without breaking a sweat. Girls whispered that she was trying too hard to be different, that she was showing off. The few friendships she had managed to cultivate withered under the weight of this new identity she hadn't asked for. So when her family moved to Westlake, Maya made a conscious decision. She would be nobody special, just another new student trying to navigate the complex social hierarchies of high school. The first week passed in a blur of new faces, confusing hallway layouts, and the exhausting performance of trying to appear normal. Maya had perfected the art of taking up minimal space, walking close to walls, choosing seats in the middle rows where she wouldn't draw attention, speaking only when called upon, and even then in measured, quiet tones. She ate lunch in the library, claiming a corner table behind the reference section where she could observe without being observed. The librarian, Mrs. Patterson, a silver-haired woman with knowing eyes, had wordlessly accepted her presence, occasionally sliding a book recommendation across the table with a gentle smile. It was during her second week that Maya first encountered the trio that would come to dominate her waking thoughts and, increasingly, her nightmares. She had been navigating the crowded hallway between third and fourth period, clutching her textbooks against her chest, when a shoulder slammed into her with enough force to send her spinning into the lockers. Her training kicked in automatically, her body adjusting to absorb the impact, rolling with it rather than fighting it. The books, however, scattered across the floor, and she found herself on her knees, scrambling to collect them before they were trampled by the endless stream of students. "Watch where you're going, fresh meat." The voice was feminine, but carried the kind of casual cruelty that Maya recognized from every school she'd ever attended. She looked up to find 3 girls standing over her, arranged in a formation that seemed both casual and deliberately intimidating. The speaker, clearly the leader, was tall and athletic, with platinum blonde hair pulled into a high ponytail that seemed to add another inch to her already impressive height. Her Westlake Warriors cheerleading jacket bore the name Tyler in bold letters across the back, and her perfectly manicured nails drummed against her designer bag with practiced impatience. Tyler Reeves, Maya would later learn, was Westlake royalty. Her mother had been head cheerleader 20 years ago. Her father owned 3 car dealerships in town, and her older brother was playing college football at State. She moved through the halls like she owned them, because in many ways she did. Flanking her were her constant shadows: Brooke Wyatt, a brunette with sharp features and sharper tongue who served as Tyler's enforcer, and Jenna Fisher, a redhead whose nervous giggle accompanied every cruel joke like a punctuation mark. "Sorry," Maya mumbled, gathering the last of her books and standing. She kept her eyes down, her body language deliberately submissive. It was a performance she had perfected, one that usually satisfied bullies looking for an easy victory. But Tyler wasn't done. She stepped closer, close enough that Maya could smell her expensive perfume, a cloying floral scent that would forever after make her stomach turn. "You're that new girl from California, right? The one who thinks she's too good to try out for any teams or clubs?" Maya hadn't tried out for anything because she was trying to stay invisible, but explaining that would only extend this interaction. "I'm just focusing on academics right now," she said quietly. Brooke laughed, a harsh sound that drew the attention of passing students. "Academics? Is that what they're calling social suicide these days?" "Leave her alone. She's not worth it," Jenna added, though her tone suggested she very much thought the opposite. "Look at her. She probably doesn't even own a straightener. What is that, the natural look?" Tyler reached out and grabbed a strand of Maya's hair, rubbing it between her fingers with exaggerated disgust. "Feels like straw. Don't they have conditioner in California?" Every muscle in Maya's body tensed. It would be so easy to grab Tyler's wrist, to apply just enough pressure to make her release the hold, maybe execute a simple wrist lock that would have the bigger girl on her knees in seconds. She could see it playing out in her mind with perfect clarity, had practiced this exact scenario hundreds of times in self-defense drills. But she didn't move, didn't even breathe, waiting for the moment to pass. Tyler must have sensed something in that stillness, because she released Maya's hair and stepped back, her eyes narrowing slightly. "Weird little mouse," she muttered. "Come on, girls. The smell of mediocrity is making me nauseous." As they walked away, their laughter echoing down the hallway, Maya finally allowed herself to breathe. Her hands were shaking, not from fear, but from the effort of restraint. She made her way to her next class on autopilot, her mind replaying the encounter, analyzing it the way Cayman had taught her to analyze fights. Tyler was the primary threat, the decision-maker. Brooke was the muscle, eager to escalate. Jenna was the follower, participating but uncomfortable with actual confrontation. It was valuable information that Maya hoped she would never need to use. But hope, as Maya was learning, was a luxury that Westlake didn't afford its outsiders. The encounters escalated gradually, with a calculated precision that spoke to years of practice. Maya's locker became a particular target. 3 times in the first month, she arrived to find it jammed with wet paper towels, the lock mechanism clogged with what appeared to be a mixture of gum and glue. The janitor, Mr. Rodriguez, would help her clean it out, muttering under his breath in Spanish about "estas niñas terribles," while shooting dark looks at Tyler and her crew. The cafeteria was another battlefield. Maya had tried eating there exactly once after the library was closed for inventory. She had chosen an empty table in the corner, keeping her head down, trying to disappear into the industrial beige of the walls. But invisibility was impossible when Tyler had marked you as a target. "Oh my God, is that seriously what you're eating?" Tyler's voice had carried across the entire cafeteria as she approached with her entourage. Maya looked down at her simple lunch, a turkey sandwich, an apple, a bottle of water, confused by what could possibly be wrong with it. "It's so basic," Brooke added, sliding into the seat across from Maya without invitation. "Don't you know anything about nutrition? Carbs are basically poison." "Though I guess, when you look like that, you've already given up anyway," Jenna giggled, that nervous titter that accompanied every cruelty like an apology she didn't mean. Tyler picked up Maya's apple, examining it with theatrical disgust. "Probably not even organic. You know these are covered in pesticides, right? But I guess when you can't afford better." She let the sentence hang, then casually took a bite of the apple before dropping it back on Maya's tray. "Ugh, mealy," just like I expected. The surrounding tables had gone quiet, students watching the scene with a mixture of sympathy and relief that they weren't the target. A few held up phones, recording the interaction for later consumption on social media. Maya recognized the look in their eyes, the same mixture of pity and fascination that people reserved for car crashes. "I need to go," Maya said quietly, starting to pack up her lunch. "Did we say you could leave?" Brooke's hand slammed down on Maya's tray, pinning it to the table. "Tyler's trying to help you. The least you could do is say thank you." This was the game, Maya understood. They would push and push until she either broke down or fought back, and either response would give them what they wanted: entertainment content, a story to spread around school. So she did neither. She simply let go of the tray and stood up, leaving her lunch behind. "Thank you," she said flatly, and walked away. The laughter that followed her out of the cafeteria was worse than any physical blow could have been. Her grades began to suffer, not dramatically, but enough that her teachers noticed. Mrs. Chen, her AP biology teacher, no relation despite the shared surname, pulled her aside after class one October afternoon. "Maya, your last test score was concerning. This isn't like you." Maya wanted to explain that it was hard to concentrate when you spent every passing period mapping routes to avoid your tormentors, when you arrived to class shaking from near misses in the hallway, when you could barely eat lunch without being harassed. Instead, she just nodded and promised to do better. At home, her parents noticed the change too. Her mother, a software engineer who approached problems with algorithmic precision, tried to troubleshoot the situation. "Are you making friends? Joining any clubs? You were so involved at your old school." "It's just different here," Maya would say, pushing food around her plate at dinner. "Smaller town, different culture. I'm still adjusting." Her father watched her with those knowing eyes, the same eyes that had seen through her excuses when she was 8 and came home from school with torn clothes and scraped knees. But he didn't push, trusting her to handle it, to ask for help if she needed it. It was trust she was determined not to betray, even as the situation spiraled further out of control. The genius of Tyler's campaign was its plausible deniability. Nothing she did was quite enough to warrant serious intervention. The shoulder checks could be accidents in crowded hallways. The borrowed items from Maya's backpack that never returned could be simple forgetfulness. The constant commentary on her appearance, her clothes, her existence fell just shy of the kind of harassment that would trigger administrative action. Tyler had been perfecting this system for years, Maya realized, and she was just the latest in a long line of victims. What made it worse was the isolation. Maya had made a few tentative connections: a lab partner in chemistry who seemed friendly, a girl in her English class who shared her love of Japanese literature. But Tyler's influence was pervasive. A few pointed comments about social contamination, a reminder about the upcoming cheerleading tryouts that anyone associating with certain people might want to reconsider attending, and suddenly Maya found herself eating alone again. The breaking point, when it came, arrived on an unseasonably warm Thursday in November. Maya had stayed after school to work on a biology project in the library, losing track of time as she often did when absorbed in research. By the time she emerged, the halls were nearly empty, most students having departed for sports practice or home. She made her way to her locker, relieved to avoid the usual gauntlet of social navigation. She should have known better, should have recognized the setup in the very emptiness that had seemed like a reprieve. They materialized from around the corner like predators who had been lying in wait. Tyler, Brooke, and Jenna, along with 3 other girls from the cheerleading squad that Maya didn't recognize. 6 against 1, though Maya's trained mind automatically noted that only Tyler and Brooke moved with any real athletic confidence. The others were followers, there for show and witness. "Working late, Mouse?" Tyler's voice echoed in the empty hallway. She was carrying something in her hand, partially concealed behind her back. Maya's instincts screamed at her to run, but she forced herself to remain calm, to keep her breathing steady. Running would only delay the inevitable and might trigger a chase response that would make things worse. "Just heading home," she said evenly. "That's funny," Brooke said, moving to block Maya's retreat, "because we've been waiting for you. Tyler has something special planned." "Consider it an early Christmas present," Jenna added, her nervous giggle more pronounced than usual. There was something in her eyes, not quite regret, but discomfort. She knew whatever was about to happen crossed a line. Tyler stepped forward, and Maya finally saw what she was holding. A large bottle, industrial-sized, with an orange cap. The label was turned away, but Maya could smell it now, the sharp chemical odor that made her nose burn. "You know what your problem is, Mouse," Tyler said conversationally, as if they were having a normal discussion. "You don't understand how things work here. You come in with your quiet little act, thinking you're better than everyone, too good to try out for teams, too good to even try to fit in." "I never said I was better than anyone," Maya replied, her mind racing through options. The nearest exit was 30 feet behind Brooke. The bathroom was closer, but they could trap her there. Her phone was in her backpack, useless for calling help in time. "You don't have to say it," Tyler continued, moving closer. "It's in the way you walk around here like you're above it all, like we're beneath your notice. Well, guess what? You're about to be noticed." It happened faster than Maya had anticipated. Tyler's movement was telegraphed, the shift of weight, the rotation of the shoulder. But Maya had been trying so hard not to react like a trained fighter that she suppressed her defensive instincts a fraction of a second too long. The contents of the bottle, industrial-strength superglue, she realized with a sick moment of clarity, splashed across the back of her head and neck. The burning was immediate and intense. The glue was hot, whether from chemical reaction or deliberate heating she couldn't tell, and it spread across her scalp like liquid fire. Her hair began to mat instantly, the strands fusing together as the adhesive set with terrifying speed. Some of it ran down her neck, searing the sensitive skin there. Maya's vision went red, not from the pain, but from rage. 7 years of training, of discipline, of control, and it all nearly shattered in that moment. She could visualize with perfect clarity how she would take Tyler down, a simple arm drag to take her back, transition to a rear naked choke. Brooke would try to intervene, but a well-placed teep kick would keep her at distance. The others would scatter once they saw their leaders fall. It would take less than 30 seconds to leave them all on the ground. But as the glue continued to burn, as she heard the sound of phone cameras capturing her humiliation, Maya made a choice. She turned and walked away, each step deliberate despite the pain, despite the rage, despite the laughter echoing behind her. "Oh my God, it's actually steaming!" one of the unknown girls shrieked. "Quick, someone get a close-up before she runs away crying," Tyler commanded, her voice bright with triumph. Maya didn't run. She walked with measured steps to the nurse's office, where Mrs. Hendricks took one look at her and immediately called 911. As they waited for the ambulance, the nurse tried to rinse the affected area with saline solution, but the damage was done. The glue had bonded to her hair and skin, with industrial efficiency. "Who did this?" Mrs. Hendricks asked, her voice shaking with suppressed fury. "Does it matter?" Maya replied, knowing how this would go. Tyler's parents were major school donors. Her father played golf with the superintendent. There might be a slap on the wrist, a token suspension, but nothing that would actually change anything. The emergency room visit was a blur of concerned faces and careful procedures. The doctor, a young woman with gentle hands and angry eyes, documented everything: the chemical burns across Maya's scalp, the patches where hair had to be cut away along with chunks of hardened adhesive, the first-degree burns on her neck where the glue had run down. "This is assault," the doctor said bluntly. "Chemical assault. You need to press charges." Maya's parents arrived as the medical team was finishing their work. Her mother took one look at her daughter's shorn head, at the red, angry wounds visible through the remaining patches of hair, and burst into tears. Her father said nothing, but Maya could see the fury in the set of his shoulders, the way his hands clenched and unclenched at his sides. "We're going to the police," her mother said once she had composed herself. "Right now." "Mom!" "No, Maya. This ends now. I don't care who her parents are or how much money they have. She assaulted you with a hazardous chemical. She could have blinded you if it had gotten in your eyes." The police report was filed that evening. By the next morning, the video had gone viral. Someone, Maya never found out who, had posted the footage online with the caption, "Westlake mean girls take bullying too far." Within hours, it had been shared thousands of times. Local news picked it up by noon. By evening, it was trending on social media, with hashtags like "Greater than Justice for Maya" and "Greater than Westlake Bullies" spreading across platforms. The school's response was predictably inadequate. Tyler received a 3-day in-school suspension, a punishment so light it might as well have been a reward. Brooke and Jenna each got 1 day. The other 3 girls received no punishment at all, the administration claiming they were just bystanders. Maya didn't return to school the following week. Her parents kept her home while they fought with the administration, demanding real consequences, threatening lawsuits, leveraging the media attention that was becoming increasingly uncomfortable for the school district. Her mother, in particular, proved to be a formidable advocate, using her tech industry connections to ensure the story stayed in the public eye. "They burned my daughter with industrial chemicals," she told a reporter from Channel 7 News, standing outside the school district offices. "And their response is to give the perpetrator a 3-day timeout? Would they react this way if someone had thrown acid? Because that's essentially what happened here." The support that poured in was overwhelming. Other victims of bullying shared their stories. Parents demanded action. A prominent civil rights attorney offered to take their case pro bono. A local salon owner, horrified by what had happened, offered to style what remained of Maya's hair for free, helping her achieve a short but fashionable cut that minimized the visible damage. But support from strangers didn't change the reality Maya faced. She knew that when she returned to school, Tyler would be there, emboldened by the light consequences, hungry for revenge over the public humiliation. The video of the assault had been viewed millions of times, and while most comments supported Maya, there was a vocal minority that called her weak, pathetic, a crybaby who couldn't handle a prank. It was her father who finally broached the subject she'd been dreading. "You've been training at Master Kim's gym since we moved here," he said one evening as they sat together on the back porch watching the sunset. It wasn't a question. He had seen her sneaking out in the evenings, had probably noticed the familiar patterns of bruises that came from grappling training. "I needed something normal," Maya admitted. "Something that was just mine. And at school." "Have you been tempted to use what you know?" "Every day," she said quietly. "Especially now. I dream about it, Dad. About what I could have done, should have done." Her father was quiet for a long moment. Your restraint has been admirable, Maya, but there comes a point where turning the other cheek becomes enabling abuse. You know what I've always told you about fighting? Last resort only. And what makes something a last resort? Maya considered the question. When all other options have been exhausted, when the threat is immediate and serious, when inaction would lead to greater harm. Do you think we've reached that point? Maya touched the tender spots on her scalp, where hair was slowly starting to grow back. Tyler's not going to stop. If anything, the suspension and the public humiliation will make her escalate. She needs to reassert her dominance, prove that she's still in control. Then perhaps, her father said carefully, it's time to stop hiding who you really are. The decision to return to school the following Monday was Maya's own. Her parents offered to homeschool her, to transfer her to private school, to move again if necessary, but Maya was tired of running, tired of hiding, tired of being anyone other than herself. She dressed differently that morning. Instead of the oversized hoodies and baggy jeans that had been her camouflage, she wore fitted athletic wear, not provocative, but no longer hiding her athletic build. Her short hair, professionally styled to work with rather than against the patches where it was still growing back, gave her an almost fierce appearance. She'd switched from glasses to contacts, partly for practical reasons. Glasses were a liability in a confrontation, but mostly because she was done diminishing herself. Master Kim had given her a pep talk the night before at the gym. The older Korean woman, a former Olympic alternate in judo, understood the weight of what Maya was facing. "You fight with honor," she had said, gripping Maya's shoulders. "No more than necessary, no less than needed. You show them who you are, but you don't become them. Understood?" "Yes, Master Kim." "And Maya, make sure someone records it, for legal purposes." Walking into Westlake that Monday morning was like entering a gladiator arena. Conversations stopped mid-sentence as she passed. Students who had never noticed her before suddenly couldn't look away. The transformation was subtle but profound. The difference between prey and predator, though Maya preferred to think of it as the difference between hiding and being. She went to her locker first, unsurprised to find it defaced with marker, "Snitch and Crybaby" scrawled across the metal. She calmly took out her phone, photographed the vandalism, then opened the locker to retrieve her books. Evidence, her mother had taught her. Document everything. Well, look who decided to show her ugly face again. Maya turned slowly to find Tyler standing behind her, flanked as always by Brooke and Jenna, though Jenna looked distinctly uncomfortable. The 3 days of suspension had done nothing to diminish Tyler's confidence. If anything, she seemed energized by the confrontation, eager to reclaim her narrative. "Hello, Tyler," Maya said evenly. Her voice was different too, no longer quiet and apologetic, but clear and steady. Tyler blinked, momentarily thrown by the response. She had expected cowering, maybe tears, certainly not this calm acknowledgement. "Nice haircut," she recovered, her voice dripping sarcasm. "Really brings out the scabs." A crowd was already forming, phones appearing like weapons drawn. Maya noticed several teachers at the periphery, watching but not intervening. They were waiting to see how this would play out, she realized. After the media storm, they couldn't afford to appear negligent, but neither did they want to antagonize Tyler's influential family without cause. "Is there something you wanted, Tyler?" Maya asked. "Or are you just here to admire your handiwork?" Tyler's eyes flashed. "You think you're tough now? Think that little media stunt makes you untouchable?" "I think," Maya said carefully, "that you assaulted me with a hazardous chemical, and the only reason you're not facing criminal charges is because your daddy has good lawyers." The crowd murmured, a mix of shock and excitement. No one talked to Tyler Reeves that way. Tyler stepped closer, invading Maya's personal space. It was a classic intimidation tactic, one that might have worked on the old Maya. But this Maya simply held her ground, her weight balanced, her hands loose at her sides. You made a mistake coming back, Tyler hissed. I'm going to make your life so miserable you'll be begging your parents to move again. No, Maya said simply. You're not. The single word, delivered with absolute certainty, seemed to stun Tyler more than any insult could have. She actually took a half-step back, uncertainty flickering across her features before anger reasserted itself. You think... I know, Maya interrupted. You're done terrorizing me. You're done terrorizing anyone. It ends now. Tyler laughed, but it sounded forced. You and what army, Mouse? No army, Maya replied. Just me. That's all I've ever needed. The tension in the hallway was palpable. Someone whispered, "Is she challenging Tyler to a fight?" The whisper spread like wildfire, voices rising in disbelief and anticipation. Tyler must have sensed the shifting dynamic, the way the crowd's sympathy was tilting toward Maya. She needed to regain control, to reassert her dominance. "After school," she said loudly, "behind the gym. We'll settle this once and for all." It was exactly what Maya had expected, what she had prepared for. "No," she said, causing another stir. "Right here, right now, or not at all. There are teachers who watched you torture me for months and did nothing," Maya finished. "They can watch this too." Mrs. Chen stepped forward from the crowd of adults. "Maya, this isn't the answer." "With respect, Mrs. Chen, you had months to provide an answer. You didn't." Maya never took her eyes off Tyler. "So, Tyler, here and now? Or are you only brave when you have a bottle of glue and a gang to back you up?" The insult landed perfectly. Tyler's face flushed red, her hands clenching into fists. "Fine," she snarled. "Right here, when I'm done with you, you'll wish you'd never come to this school." "I already wish that," Maya said quietly, and something in her tone made several students step back, creating a natural circle around them. What happened next would be dissected in countless retellings, analyzed in frame-by-frame video reviews, and become legend in Westlake High's history. But for Maya, it unfolded with the clarity of a well-rehearsed dance. Tyler attacked first, as Maya knew she would. It was a wild haymaker, all power and no technique, telegraphed from a mile away. Maya didn't just dodge, she flowed around it, her movement so fluid it looked choreographed. Tyler's fist hit nothing but air, her momentum carrying her forward awkwardly. "Stop dancing and fight," Tyler snarled, spinning to face Maya again. "I am fighting," Maya replied calmly. "You're just not very good at this." The insult provoked exactly the response Maya expected. Tyler charged, attempting to use her height and weight advantage to overwhelm her smaller opponent. It was the worst possible strategy against someone trained in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Maya executed a perfect arm drag, using Tyler's momentum against her. In one smooth motion, she took Tyler's back, securing a standing rear naked choke before the bigger girl even realized what was happening. She didn't apply full pressure. This was a demonstration, not an attempt to harm. But the position was unmistakable. "Tap out," Maya said quietly into Tyler's ear. "It's over." Tyler struggled, her face turning red as she tried to break free, but Maya's technique was flawless. Years of training against larger, stronger opponents had prepared her for exactly this scenario. She maintained the hold with minimal effort, waiting. "Get off her!" Brooke shouted, starting forward, but several students blocked her path. "She challenged Maya," someone said. "Let them finish it." The crowd had completely turned, Maya realized. They weren't just watching anymore. They were actively supporting her. Years of suppressed resentment toward Tyler and her crew were surfacing, emboldened by seeing their tormentor finally facing consequences. Tyler's struggles were weakening, her oxygen starting to run low. Maya could feel the exact moment when pride gave way to panic, when the realization hit that she was completely helpless. "Tap out," Maya repeated, "or go to sleep, your choice." Tyler's hand finally slapped against Maya's arm, the universal signal of submission in combat sports. Maya immediately released the hold, stepping back to give Tyler space. The bigger girl dropped to her knees, gasping for air, her face a mixture of shock, humiliation, and disbelief. "How?" she wheezed, looking up at Maya with wide eyes. 7 years of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Maya answered, loud enough for everyone to hear. 4 years of Muay Thai, 37 tournament wins. I've been fighting since I was 8 years old. You never stood a chance. The hallway erupted. Students cheered, applauded, some even laughed at the cosmic justice of it all. The mouse they had all watched being tormented for months was actually a trained fighter who had chosen restraint over retaliation until pushed to her absolute limit. "Why?" Tyler asked, still on her knees. It wasn't clear if she was asking why Maya had hidden her abilities or why she had chosen to reveal them now. Maya crouched down to Tyler's level, her voice gentle despite everything. "Because fighting is supposed to be a last resort. Because true strength isn't about dominating others. Because I tried everything else first." She paused. "And because you needed to learn that there are consequences for hurting people, even if your daddy's money usually protects you from them." Mrs. Novak, the assistant principal, finally pushed through the crowd. "Both of you, my office now!" Maya stood, offering Tyler a hand up. It was a gesture of sportsmanship, of grace that Tyler didn't deserve, but Maya offered anyway. After a long moment, Tyler took it, allowing Maya to pull her to her feet. As they walked to the office, the crowd parting before them like the Red Sea, Maya heard the whispers following them. The story was already spreading, morphing into legend. By lunch, everyone would know that the quiet new girl was actually a martial arts champion. By the end of the day, the video would be viral, a perfect companion piece to the assault footage from the week before. The meeting in Mrs. Novak's office was surprisingly brief. With dozens of witnesses and video evidence, there was no denying what had happened. Tyler had challenged Maya to a fight. Maya had defended herself with minimal necessary force, and the confrontation had ended without serious injury. "This is still fighting on school property," Mrs. Novak said, though her tone suggested she understood the circumstances. "There have to be consequences." Maya was defending herself, her mother said. She had arrived within minutes of being called, prepared for battle. After your failure to protect her from assault with a chemical weapon, she had every right to stand up for herself when physically confronted. "Tyler started it," Maya's father added, his tone leaving no room for argument. "Multiple witnesses will confirm that." Maya even tried to de-escalate by refusing the original after-school challenge. In the end, both girls received 1-day suspensions for fighting, a token punishment that satisfied the letter of the school's zero-tolerance policy while acknowledging the extraordinary circumstances. Tyler's parents, perhaps recognizing that their daughter's reputation was already in ruins, didn't contest the decision. But the real consequences went far deeper than any official punishment. When Maya returned to school after her suspension, everything had changed. The video of the fight, combined with the earlier assault footage, had transformed her from victim to folk hero. Students who had never spoken to her before approached with words of support and admiration. The few who had tried to befriend her before but been scared off by Tyler's influence reconnected, apologizing for their cowardice. "I should have stood up for you," Lisa, her former lab partner, said tearfully. "I knew what they were doing was wrong, but I was scared." "I understand," Maya replied, and she meant it. Not everyone was trained to fight. Not everyone could afford to stand up to people like Tyler. That's why those who could had a responsibility to protect those who couldn't. Tyler, on the other hand, found herself increasingly isolated. The fear that had kept people in line evaporated once they saw her helpless in Maya's chokehold. Brooke and Jenna distanced themselves, perhaps realizing that their alliance had been built on Tyler's perceived invincibility. The cheerleading squad voted to remove her as captain, citing conduct unbecoming of a leader. 2 weeks after the fight, Tyler approached Maya in the library. She looked different, smaller somehow, her usual confident swagger replaced by something tentative and uncertain. "Can we talk?" she asked quietly. Maya looked up from her biology textbook, studying the girl who had made her life miserable for months. Tyler had bags under her eyes, her usually perfect appearance slightly disheveled. The fall from grace had clearly taken its toll. "Okay," Maya said, gesturing to the chair across from her. Tyler sat down, fidgeting with her phone before setting it aside. "I wanted to apologize. For everything. The harassment, the glue, all of it." Maya waited, saying nothing. She had learned that silence often prompted more honesty than questions. "I've been seeing a therapist," Tyler continued. "My parents insisted after everything. She's helping me understand why I did what I did, why I needed to hurt people to feel powerful." "And?" Maya prompted, when Tyler fell silent. "And I'm sorry. Really sorry. Not just because I lost or because everyone hates me now, but because what I did was wrong. Cruel. Unforgivable, really." Tyler met Maya's eyes for the first time. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I just needed you to know that I understand now. What I put you through, what I put others through. It was monstrous." Maya considered the girl across from her. The apology seemed genuine, but apologies didn't erase trauma, didn't heal the chemical burns that still marked her scalp, didn't give back the months of peace that had been stolen from her. "I appreciate the apology," Maya said finally, "and I hope you really are working on yourself. But you're right. I don't forgive you. Maybe someday, but not now." Tyler nodded, seeming to expect this response. "Fair?" "More than fair, actually." She stood to leave, then paused. "Can I ask you something?" "Go ahead. All those months when you could have destroyed me at any time. Why didn't you?" Maya thought about how to answer this, how to explain a philosophy that had been ingrained in her since childhood. Because violence should never be the first answer, or the second, or even the third. Because true strength is knowing you can hurt someone and choosing not to. Because I didn't want to be like you. Tyler flinched at the last words, but nodded. "I understand. Thank you for showing more restraint than I deserved." As Tyler walked away, Maya felt something shift inside her. Not forgiveness exactly, but a release of the anger that had been burning since that day in the hallway. Tyler would face her own consequences, would have to rebuild herself from the ground up. That was justice enough. The remainder of the school year passed in relative peace. Maya joined the school's newly formed self-defense club, teaching basic techniques to students who wanted to learn to protect themselves. The club grew quickly, becoming one of the most popular extracurriculars at Westlake. Master Kim came in as a guest instructor once a month, delighted to see Maya sharing her knowledge. "Teaching is the highest form of mastery," she told Maya after one particularly successful session. "You understand that now? Yes?" Maya did understand. Every student who learned to break a wrist grab, every person who gained confidence in their ability to protect themselves was a small victory against the Tyler Reeves of the world. Her parents were proud, but also concerned about the attention. The story had gone national, with major news outlets picking up the narrative of the bullied girl who was secretly a martial arts champion. Interview requests poured in, but Maya declined them all. She had no interest in becoming a celebrity or a symbol. She just wanted to finish high school in peace. "You could use this platform to help others," her mother suggested one evening. "Share your story, inspire other victims of bullying." "I'm helping others," Maya replied, "at school, in person, where it matters. I don't need to be on TV to make a difference." There were still challenges, of course. A few students, mostly Tyler's former inner circle, tried to test her to see if the fighter in the video was real or just lucky. Maya handled each confrontation with calm efficiency, never escalating beyond what was necessary to end the threat. Word spread quickly. Maya Chen was not someone to mess with, but more importantly, word spread that Maya Chen would stand up for others. When she witnessed a group of seniors harassing a freshman, she intervened without hesitation. When the school's LGBTQ+ club faced harassment from a conservative parent group, Maya stood with them at the school board meeting, her presence a silent reminder that they were protected. She became, without intending to, Westlake High's unofficial guardian. "You're like a superhero," a freshman girl said to her one day after Maya had stopped some older boys from accidentally knocking the girl's lunch tray over. "No," Maya corrected gently. "I'm just someone who learned to fight and chooses to use that knowledge responsibly. Anyone can learn to stand up for themselves and others. It doesn't take superpowers, just courage and training." Spring arrived with a surprise. Tyler's family, facing multiple lawsuits and social ostracism, decided to move. Tyler found Maya the day before they left, approaching her in the parking lot after school. "We're leaving," she said without preamble. "Moving to Colorado. Fresh start." "Good luck," Maya said, meaning it. Everyone deserved a chance to change, to become better. "I wanted to give you this," Tyler said, holding out an envelope. "Don't open it until I'm gone, please." Maya took the envelope, watching as Tyler walked away for the last time. She waited until that evening to open it, finding a handwritten letter inside. "Maya, I know I said it before, but I need to write it down. I'm sorry, not just for what I did to you, but for who I was. The person who threw that glue, who tortured you for months. I hate her. I hate that she was me. My therapist says I was projecting my own insecurities, that I saw something in you that threatened me. You were quiet but not weak, alone but not lonely, different but not trying to fit in. You were everything I couldn't be, authentically yourself. I don't expect forgiveness or friendship or even a response to this letter. I just wanted you to know that you changed me, not the fight that just broke the illusion I had built around myself. But your restraint, your choice not to destroy me when you could have, that's what really changed me. I'm going to be better in Colorado. I'm going to use this fresh start to become someone who protects rather than hurts. Someone more like you. Thank you for the lesson, even though I know I didn't deserve such a patient teacher. Tyler Reeves. Maya read the letter twice, then carefully folded it and placed it in her desk drawer. She wouldn't respond. There was nothing left to say, but she would keep it as a reminder that people could change, that even the worst bullies were human beings capable of growth. As junior year began, Maya found herself in a completely different position at Westlake. No longer the invisible new girl or the victim of relentless bullying, she had become something else entirely, a leader, a protector, someone others looked up to. She was elected president of the Self-Defense Club unanimously and asked to speak at freshman orientation about standing up to bullying. The most important thing to understand, she told the assembled ninth graders, is that strength comes in many forms. Physical strength is just one tool, and not always the most important one. There's strength in speaking up, in refusing to be a bystander, in choosing kindness when cruelty would be easier. She paused, looking out at the young faces, some eager, some skeptical, all vulnerable in their own ways. I learned martial arts because my father wanted me to be prepared for a world that isn't always kind. But the most important lesson I learned wasn't how to throw a punch or execute a chokehold. It was that true power lies in knowing when not to use those skills. A hand shot up from the audience. But you did use them against Tyler Reeves. Everyone's seen the video. Maya nodded, having expected this question. I did. After months of harassment and a chemical assault that left me with burns on my scalp, after trying every other option, avoiding her, reporting to teachers, having my parents intervene, fighting was my absolute last resort, used only when I was physically confronted with no other option. And even then, I used the minimum force necessary to end the threat. But it felt good, right? Another student asked. Taking down someone who hurt you? Maya considered the question carefully. In the moment? There was satisfaction in finally standing up for myself, yes. But looking back, what I mostly feel is sadness that it came to that our school system failed so badly that a 15-year-old girl felt she had no option but to publicly fight her bully to make the harassment stop. The room was quiet, absorbing this perspective. If you take anything from my story, Maya continued, let it be this. Learn to defend yourself, absolutely, whether that's through martial arts, verbal assertiveness training, or simply learning to document and report harassment effectively. But more importantly, learn to stand up for others. Be the person who intervenes when you see bullying happen. Be the friend who sits with the kid eating alone. Be the voice that says, "That's not okay," when someone makes a cruel joke. She smiled slightly. And if you're thinking about bullying someone, remember, you never know who might be a trained fighter choosing pacifism. The audience laughed, breaking the tension, and Maya felt the shift in the room. These freshmen would go forward with a different understanding of power and responsibility, and maybe, just maybe, there would be fewer Tyler Reeves in their class. After the orientation, Principal Martinez approached her. He was new, brought in after the previous principal resigned following the scandal of the superglue incident and the school's inadequate response. That was impressive, Maya. You've become quite the leader here. I never wanted to be, Maya replied honestly. I just wanted to be left alone to get through high school. The best leaders rarely seek power, Martinez said. They have it thrust upon them by circumstance and rise to meet the challenge. You've done that remarkably well. He paused, seeming to weigh his next words. I've been implementing new anti-bullying protocols, as you know. I'd like you to be part of the Student Advisory Committee. Your perspective would be invaluable. Maya agreed, recognizing the opportunity to create real change. The committee work was challenging but rewarding, helping to establish clear reporting procedures, mandatory intervention training for teachers, and serious consequences for harassment that went beyond token suspensions. One policy Maya pushed for particularly hard was protection for students who defended themselves or others from bullying. Zero tolerance for fighting sounds good on paper, she argued at one committee meeting, but in practice, it punishes victims who finally stand up for themselves. There has to be recognition of self-defense, as distinct from aggression. It took months of debate, but eventually the policy was amended to include provisions for self-defense, with clear guidelines about proportional response and the requirement to attempt de-escalation first. As senior year approached, Maya found herself reflecting on how much had changed since that terrifying day when Tyler had poured superglue on her head. The physical scars had mostly healed, though she still had a few patches where hair grew differently, a permanent reminder of what she had endured. The emotional scars ran deeper but were healing too, helped by the support of friends she had made and the purpose she had found in protecting others. Master Kim promoted her to brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, one step away from the coveted black belt that usually took a decade or more to achieve. You've learned the most important lesson, Master Kim said during the promotion ceremony. That martial arts is not about fighting. It's about becoming the kind of person who doesn't need to fight. You embody this principle. College acceptance letters started arriving in the spring of senior year. Maya had options, good options, including several schools offering martial arts scholarships. She chose Stanford, not for their combat sports program, but for their engineering school. She wanted to build things, create solutions to problems that couldn't be solved with physical force. "You could compete professionally," her Muay Thai coach Kamen said when she told him her decision. "You have the skills, the mental toughness." "Maybe," Maya agreed, "but I think I can do more good in other ways. Fighting in a ring is sport. What I want to do is change the systems that create bullies in the first place." Graduation day arrived with the kind of perfect weather that seemed scripted for endings and beginnings. Maya sat with her class, no longer invisible, no longer an outsider. She had friends, real friends who knew her complete story and accepted her for who she was. She had the respect of her peers and teachers. She had made a difference. As she walked across the stage to receive her diploma, the applause was notably louder than for most students. She saw Master Kim in the audience, beaming with pride. Her parents were there, of course, her mother crying happy tears, her father giving her a small nod of approval that meant more than any words could. Principal Martinez shook her hand and leaned in close. "You changed this school, Maya. Your courage made Westlake better for everyone who comes after you." After the ceremony, as families gathered for pictures and celebrations, Maya was approached by a woman she didn't recognize. She was young, maybe mid-20s, with kind eyes and a hesitant smile. "You don't know me," the woman said, "but I wanted to thank you. My little sister is a sophomore here. She was being bullied badly, but after your story went viral, after you stood up to Tyler, things changed. The bullies backed off. My sister found the courage to report what was happening. She joined your self-defense club. You saved her, Maya. You saved a lot of kids." Maya felt tears prick at her eyes. This was why she had chosen to stand and fight, not for revenge or satisfaction, but for all the quiet kids, the different kids, the ones who just wanted to survive high school without being tormented. "I'm glad she's okay," Maya said. "Tell her to keep training. The confidence it brings is more valuable than the fighting skills." As the woman walked away, Maya's father appeared at her side. "Proud of you," he said simply. "Even though I got in a fight at school," Maya teased. "Because you waited until you had no other choice," he corrected. "Because you used your strength to protect, not to dominate. Because you turned one of the worst experiences of your life into something that helped others." They stood together, watching the celebrations continue around them. In a few months, Maya would leave for Stanford, would begin a new chapter in a place where no one knew her story unless she chose to share it. The thought was both exciting and terrifying. "Dad," she said, "do you think Tyler really changed? Her letter seemed genuine, but—" Her father considered the question. People are capable of tremendous change when confronted with the consequences of their actions. Whether Tyler truly changed or just learned to hide her nature better, only time will tell. But you gave her the opportunity to choose change, and that's all anyone can do. That evening, the Chen family held a small celebration at their home. Master Kim attended, as did several of Maya's friends from the self-defense club. As they ate and laughed and shared stories, Maya found herself thinking about the journey that had brought her here. She thought about the scared girl who had walked into Westlake High 2 years ago, desperate to be invisible. She thought about the months of torment, the daily humiliations, the constant fear. She thought about the burning sensation of superglue on her scalp, the moment when she could have given in to rage and revenge. And she thought about the choice she had made, to endure until endurance became enabling, to show restraint until restraint became complicity, and finally, to stand up not just for herself, but for everyone who couldn't. "What are you thinking about?" Lisa asked, noticing Maya's distant expression. "Just remembering," Maya replied, "and looking forward." "Any regrets?" Lisa pressed. Maya considered the question. Did she regret not standing up to Tyler sooner? Sometimes. Did she regret the fight itself? Number. Did she regret the pain and humiliation she had endured? That was harder to answer. "I regret that it happened," she said finally. "I regret that Tyler felt the need to hurt others to feel powerful. I regret that the adults who should have protected me failed to do so. But I don't regret how I handled it. Every choice I made was aligned with my values, even when it was hard, especially when it was hard." As the evening wound down and guests began to leave, Master Kim pulled Maya aside for a private moment. "I have something for you," she said, producing a small wrapped package. Maya opened it to find a black belt, her name embroidered on one end in gold thread. "But I'm only a brown belt," Maya protested. "In technical skill, yes," Master Kim agreed. "You'll test for your black belt in college, I'm sure, but in understanding, in embodying the true spirit of martial arts, you've already surpassed many black belts I know. This is my personal belt from when I competed. I want you to have it, not to wear, but to remember. Remember that true strength is not measured in victories, but in the wisdom to know when fighting is necessary and the courage to choose peace whenever possible." Maya hugged her teacher, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. Later, alone in her room, Maya sat at her desk and opened her laptop. She had been asked many times to write about her experience, to share her story in her own words. She had always declined, but now, on the eve of a new beginning, she felt ready. She began to type, "To anyone who feels powerless, invisible, or afraid, I see you, I was you, and I want you to know that it gets better, but more importantly, that you have more power than you realize. My name is Maya Chen, and 2 years ago, I was the victim of relentless bullying that culminated in an assault with industrial superglue. What my tormentors didn't know was that I had been training in martial arts since I was 8 years old. For months, I chose not to fight back, not out of weakness, but out of principle. Violence, I had been taught, should always be a last resort. When I finally did fight back, when I was left with no other choice, the video went viral. People called me a hero, a badass, a warrior. But I want you to understand something. The real strength wasn't in the physical techniques I used to defeat my bully. The real strength was in every day I chose not to use them. Every moment I chose de-escalation over retaliation. Every time I walked away when I could have fought. If you're being bullied, I won't tell you it's easy or that ignoring it will make it go away. Sometimes it won't. Sometimes you have to stand up and say, enough. But I will tell you this, document everything. Report consistently, even when it feels useless. Build a support network, and if possible, learn to defend yourself. Not because you should have to, but because confidence changes how you carry yourself. And bullies prefer easy targets. If you're someone who has bullied others, know that it's never too late to change. The person who tormented me wrote me a letter of genuine apology, sought therapy, and committed to being better. People can change, but only if they choose to confront the pain within themselves that makes them want to cause pain in others. If you're a bystander, you have more power than you know. Speak up, stand with victims, report what you see, be the friend that makes surviving bearable. Your silence is complicity, but your voice can be salvation. And if you're an adult, a teacher, a parent, an administrator, please listen when kids report bullying. Take it seriously. The phrase, "kids will be kids," is how situations escalate to violence. Early intervention could have prevented my assault and the fight that followed. Do better. I'm starting college soon, leaving behind the school where I was both victim and reluctant hero. I don't know what the future holds, but I know this. I will continue to train, not because I expect to fight, but because discipline and preparation are their own rewards. I will continue to stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves. And I will continue to believe that true strength lies not in the ability to hurt, but in the choice to heal. To Tyler, if you ever read this, I forgive you, not for your sake, but for mine. I hope you found peace and purpose in your fresh start. I hope you've become the person you claimed you wanted to be. And I hope you never forget the lesson you learned, that real power isn't about dominance, but about the courage to be vulnerable, to be kind, to be human. To everyone else, be strong, be smart, be kind. Learn to fight so you don't have to. Stand up for others. And remember, the quiet ones, the different ones, the ones you overlook or underestimate, we might just surprise you. With hope and determination. Maya Chen. She read through what she had written, made a few edits, then posted it on the blog her mother had helped her set up. Within hours, it had been shared thousands of times. Messages poured in from other victims, from reformed bullies, from parents and teachers who promised to do better. But Maya didn't see most of them. She was already looking forward, packing for college, preparing for a new chapter. The girl who had walked into Westlake High desperate to be invisible was gone. In her place stood a young woman who understood that visibility came with responsibility, that strength meant protection, and that sometimes the most important fights were the ones you chose not to have. As she folded her self-defense club t-shirt and placed it in a box of high school memories, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. She almost ignored it, but something made her look. Maya, this is Tyler. I just read your blog post. Thank you for the forgiveness I didn't deserve. I wanted you to know I'm teaching kids self-defense at a community center here in Colorado. Not fighting, but confidence, boundary setting, de-escalation, everything I learned from our encounter. I'm trying to be someone you wouldn't have to defend yourself against. I'm trying to be someone who defends others. Thank you for showing me that was possible. I hope your future is everything you deserve. Maya smiled, a small, genuine expression of something that might have been closure. She didn't reply. Some conversations were better left finished, but she felt something settle in her chest, a weight she hadn't realized she was still carrying, finally lifting. Outside her window, the sun was setting over Westlake, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. Somewhere in town, the self-defense club was meeting, continuing the work she had started. Somewhere else, a quiet kid was walking a little taller, knowing they weren't alone. And somewhere in Colorado, a former bully was teaching children to be better than she had been. It wasn't a perfect ending. Real life rarely provided those. But it was enough, more than enough. Maya Chen closed her laptop, finished packing, and prepared to face whatever came next. She was ready. She had always been ready. She just hadn't known it until a bottle of superglue forced her to discover who she really was. Not a mouse, not a victim, but a protector, a teacher, a fighter who chose peace. And that, she thought as she turned off the light, was the greatest victory of all.